Welcome students to the session of panoramic physics. Last time we have discussed about the, if you remember, relative velocity of approach equal to relative velocity of separation, which we did last time. ये हमने पढ़ा था when we are discussing elastic collision in one dimension. I suppose it was equation third. Now students, we have to find the separate velocity of the particles when they actually collide. For that, let's calculate V2 from here. It will now comes to be U1 minus U2 plus V1. So V2 की value आ जाएगी U1 minus U2 plus V1. Substitute this value. Let it be your equation fourth. Substitute this value in equation first. वैल्यू इन इक्वेशन फर्स्ट में जब हम इसकी वैल्यू करेंगे देन व्हाट विल हैपन दिस वैल्यू व्हेन यू पुट इन इक्वेशन वन दैट वाज योर m1 u1 minus v1 and it is m2 that is v1 minus u1 sorry that is v2 minus u2 that is your v2 minus u2. This is your equation number first. Now in this equation first you have to put the value of V2. Let it be m1 u1 minus v1. It comes out to be m2. In place of V2 you will write u1 minus u2 plus this is your v1. This is your v1 and minus u2. That is u1 minus u2 minus u2, it comes out to be u1 minus u2 will minus 2u2 plus v1 and here it is m1 u1 minus v1. Now just multiplying m1 u1 minus m1 v1 equal to m2 u1 minus 2 m2 u2 plus m2 v1. Now students, you can easily see कि हमने कोलिजन में relative velocity of separation और approach के बारे में जब पढ़ा तो उससे हमें we find the value of V2 को हमने अब यहाँ से derive करना है and from that what we have to do हमें first equation में value of V2 को put किया and then we get this type of equation. Now to make it more simplified आप V1 और U1 की टर्म्स को इंटरचेंज कर लीजिए so that they can be on a one side that is M1 U1 और V1 या तो एक साइड में आप V1 रख लीजिए जैसे M1 V1 plus M2 V1 को एक साइड ले आइए. That is rearranging also. I am doing two steps in a single. So students, on rearranging we'll get M1 U1 minus M2 U1 plus 2 M2 U2. This is the equation. Now on further solving, let me write it here. On further solving this equation we get, further solve करेंगे, we'll get now here it is m1 plus m2 v1. Now here m1 u1 and here it is m2 u1, so you can write it as m1 minus m2 u1 plus 2 m2 u2. From here we get v1 is equal to m1 minus m2 u1 2 m2 u2 whole divided by m1 plus m2. This is the value of velocity v1. Let this be equation number fifth. If that was your fourth equation, let this be equation number fifth. Similarly we can find the value of V2. यहाँ से हमें V1 की वैल्यू पता चल गई. Now we can similarly find the value of V2. For V2 also we have to simply put that value in same equation, that is U1 minus U2 plus V1. हमारे पास जो V2 की equation थी that is U1 minus U2 plus V1. Here in place of V1 we'll put this entire value at comes out to be U1 minus U2 plus here let me write M1 minus M2 U1 plus 2 m2 u2 and whole thing divided by m1 plus m2. Let m1 plus m2 be the LCM and here we get u1 minus u2 and let it be multiplied by m1 plus m2 again m1 minus m2 u1 plus 2 m2 u2, and this whole thing m1 plus m2 as LC. Now students, we move further. Next steps to be written over here. This comes out to be, let me write it here. Now solving it, just opening the brackets, u1 m1 plus u1 m2 minus m1 u2, and again plus m2 u2, and similarly here it is m1 u1 minus m2 u1 plus 2 m2 u2, whole thing divided by m1 plus m2. On solving and rearranging it further, we'll get 2m1 u1, इसे solve करके और rearrange करके हमारे पास आएगा 2m1 u1 plus m2 u1 minus m2 u2, and this whole m1 u2 and this whole thing divided by, so here it is m1 plus m2. Let me write it more clearly, students. So students, on solving this further, we get m2 minus m1 u2, 2m1 u1, m1 m2. This is the value of velocity v2. So students, yes, it is comes out to be this. And in case of v1, if you remember, our v1 was m1 minus m2. Just you can remember it like that also, m1 minus m2. Obviously, one thing common is that is your denominator, that is m1 plus m2 is there, and in place of m1 minus m2, here you have to write u1 here, and in place of 2m1 u1 you will write there 2m2 u2. These are two basic equations for your velocity. There are further special cases of velocity also. Suppose when two bodies have equal masses, अगर इनका mass equal हो जाए तो क्या होगा? From here also you can see, now here v1 will be equal to u2. अगर ये दोनों equal हो जाए, this factor comes out to be 0. This factor will be 2m and this factor will be 2m u2. तो for example, ये दोनों masses अगर same हो जाएं, then v1 will be equal to u2. You can see also. इसे आप सिंपली इसको सिंप्लीफाइड करके समझ सकते हैं. Here it is very easy to remember. यहाँ पे अगर masses equal हो गए तो ये टर्म पूरी 0 हो जाएगी. That is m minus m u, and this whole thing comes out to be 0. Here it is left with 2m u2 upon m plus m, that is 2m. So it will be 2m u2 and 2m. It gets cancelled. It comes to be u2. Means velocity v1 u2. इससे क्या पता चलता है? From this equation we come to know that if two bodies have equal masses, then of course there is a certain change. So for one dimension head, their velocities there will be a interchange in the collision. यहाँ पे collision में interchange हो जाएगा. So one dimensional collision there will be interchange of velocity. Similarly in v2 also. v2 में क्या हो जाएगा? This again comes to be 0. Here it is now 2m u1, again 2m. It means v2 will be equal to u1. तो इनकी velocity आपस में interchange होगी. Likewise, there are many such cases which comes in the elastic collision in one dimensions. Students, next time we'll start with the system of particles, very next unit and next chapter. That is very interesting. How to proceed on that. Till then, revise it carefully and precisely.